This is the story of Michael Chen, a respected construction site supervisor with 15 years of experience. Michael was known for running tight schedules and completing projects ahead of deadline. His reputation was built on efficiency, reliability, and getting the job done. But on one autumn morning, a series of small decisions led to a moment that would reshape his understanding of what truly matters on a worksite. It was a Tuesday morning in October. The construction crew was working on a mid-rise office building in the downtown area. They were behind schedule due to weather delays from the previous week, and the client was pressing for faster progress. Michael felt the pressure mounting. The team had just 3 days to complete the exterior facade work on the 8th floor before the next phase could begin. The crew arrived early that morning, energized by coffee and determined to make up for lost time. As workers prepared their equipment, Michael conducted his usual morning briefing. He covered the day's objectives, assigned tasks, and reminded everyone about the general safety procedures they followed every day. It was a routine he'd performed hundreds of times before. But here's where the first small deviation occurred: the safety harness inspection. Normally, a careful examination of each worker's equipment was abbreviated. Michael glanced at the harnesses hanging on their hooks and made an assumption they'd been checked the day before. The crew was experienced, and they were already running 15 minutes behind schedule. He decided to move forward. This is a phenomenon that safety experts call normalization of deviance. It's when small departures from proper procedure become gradually accepted as normal. Each time nothing goes wrong, it reinforces the belief that the shortcut was acceptable. Over time, these minor violations accumulate until they're no longer seen as violations at all. They become the new normal. Michael had been working construction for so long that certain risks no longer seemed as significant as they once did. Heights that would terrify most people felt familiar to him. Equipment that required careful handling seemed almost like extensions of his own hands. This comfort, this deep familiarity, created an invisible danger. He'd forgotten what it felt like to be appropriately cautious. As the morning progressed, other small compromises followed. The safety barrier on the eastern edge of the floor was partially removed to accommodate a large material delivery. The plan was to replace it immediately. But another urgent task took priority. The barrier remained down. One of the crew members mentioned that his safety lanyard clasp felt slightly stiff. Michael told him it was probably fine day to replace it during the lunch break. The worker agreed and continued his tasks. The wind picked up around mid-morning, gusting stronger than the weather forecast had predicted. The safety protocol required work stoppage when winds exceeded certain speeds. But Michael checked his phone's weather app, which showed conditions just within acceptable limits. He decided to keep going, reasoning that they were close enough to the threshold and couldn't afford another delay. Each decision, viewed individually, seemed reasonable in the moment. Each was a calculated risk made by an experienced professional trying to balance safety with productivity. But together, they created a situation where the safety margins, those built-in buffers that protect workers, even when something unexpected happens, had been stripped away. At approximately 10:45 a.m., a crane operator lifted a load of materials to the 8th floor. The load was slightly heavier than optimal, but still within equipment specifications. As it swung toward the platform, a gust of wind caught it at an angle. The load shifted. A worker named James moved instinctively to steady the incoming materials. In his haste, he stepped backward toward the area where the safety barrier had been temporarily removed. His safety lanyard, which should have been attached to a secure anchor point, had been disconnected for just a moment while he repositioned to a better work location. What happened next occurred in seconds, but felt much longer. James's foot found empty air where he expected solid flooring. He stumbled. His hand shot out, grabbing for anything to arrest his fall. He caught the edge of a support beam. Michael saw the moment unfold. He lunged forward, shouting. Two other workers reacted simultaneously, moving toward James. One grabbed his arm. Another secured a grip on his work vest. Together, they pulled him back onto the platform. James lay on the floor, breathing hard. His Fosse Polly. He was safe. Everyone was safe, but the realization of what could have happened hit the entire crew like a physical force. Work stopped immediately. Michael called for a complete safety stand-down, a halt to all operations for a comprehensive review. His hands were shaking as he made the call to his supervisor. The words felt heavy in his mouth as he explained what had happened. In the hours that followed, Michael sat with his crew and reviewed every decision that led to that moment, not with blame, but with honesty. They discussed how production pressure had influenced their choices. They talked about how experience can sometimes breed complacency rather than caution. They acknowledged that feeling confident and skilled is different from being truly safe. The company brought in a safety consultant to review their protocols. They discovered that many of the procedures they gradually relaxed were therefore precisely these kinds of situations, the unexpected variables that no amount of experience can fully anticipate. Wind gusts, equipment shifts, split-second movements. These are the moments when proper safety measures make the difference between a close call and a tragedy. Michael's story is not unique. Across industries from construction to healthcare, from manufacturing to transportation, similar moments occur every day. People with excellent training and good intentions find themselves making small compromises that accumulate into larger risks. The lesson isn't that Michael was reckless or incompetent. The lesson is that safety requires constant vigilance, precisely because we are human. We get tired, we feel pressure, we become comfortable. And in those moments, the structured safety protocols we sometimes view as bureaucratic obstacles are actually the systems that protect us from our own very human tendencies. Today, Michael approaches every workday differently. The morning safety checks are thorough without exception. When production pressure mounts, he remembers James's face in that moment of realization. He has learned that meeting a deadline means nothing if someone doesn't go home safe at the end of the day. Safety isn't about being fearful or paranoid. It's about maintaining appropriate respect for risk, especially when everything feels routine. It's about understanding that the moment we forget safety is often the moment we need it most. The next time you're tempted to skip a safety step because you're in a hurry, because you're experienced, or because nothing has ever gone wrong before, remember this story. Remember that every safety protocol exists because someone, somewhere, learned a difficult lesson. Those lessons don't need to be repeated.